He woke to blue light and a soft hum like a song behind walls. For a long moment he did not move. He listened. He felt the smooth slab under his back. He felt cool air on his skin. He felt nothing else, and that was strange. No pain, no heat, no fear yet, only the stillness before a storm. Captain Elias Ward opened his eyes. The ceiling above him was clear glass or something like it. Beyond that, pillars rose like pale trees and thin lines of light ran through them like veins. A shadow moved across the glass. Then another. Curious eyes peered down at him, wide, liquid, and not human. He tried to speak, but his throat was dry. His voice came out as a rough whisper. "Where am I?" The shadows flinched back. A hiss of air slipped into the room. A door opened on the left, folding into itself like a ripple. 3 beings entered. They were tall, with long limbs and soft gray skin that seemed to catch and bend the light. Their faces were smooth except for those large eyes and a small, delicate mouth, more like a seam than lips. They wore no clothes, but their bodies were simple and plain, like a design that had nothing to hide. One of them raised a hand. A thin frame unfolded from its forearm, projecting symbols into the air with a gentle buzz. Shapes turned to letters. Letters turned to words. A voice came from nowhere and everywhere at once. It sounded gentle but distant, like a teacher inside a dream. Subject, Elias Ward, human male. Status, reconstitution complete. Cognitive activity stabilized. Motor readiness pending. Elias did not like the word subject. He pushed himself up on his elbows. The slab was smooth stone, or maybe it was not stone at all. It was warm where his body had been, but cool at the edges. He realized then that he was unclothed. Heat rose in his face, not from shame, but from the strangeness of standing naked in a place that spoke like a machine. He reached for something to cover himself, and the slab offered a folded sheet from a hidden seam. He wrapped it around his waist with a firm tug. "Thank you," he said, though he did not know who he thanked. The 3 beings watched him. Their eyes shone like wet glass. Another line of symbols flowed into the air. The voice spoke again. "Do not attempt aggressive motion. Your form is fragile." Elias looked at his hands. His hands did not look fragile. They were steady, warm, strong. He flexed his fingers. No tremble, no ache. His heart beat slow and even, like a calm drum. He tried a breath. It came deep and full. The air was clean and sweet, almost too clean, like it had been washed many times. He closed his eyes and reached for memory. There had been a ship, his ship, the Ranger's Wake. There had been a planet under them, pale blue and green, not on any charts. There had been a flash. There had been a tearing sound like metal crying out. Then cold, then dark. "Now this, what happened to my crew?" he asked. No answer came at first. The 3 aliens spoke to each other in a soft crackle, like static. Their mouths barely moved. One of them stepped closer and held out a hand with the palm open, showing it had nothing inside. Elias nodded. The alien touched the slab by his side. The room dimmed. The ceiling glass turned black. The glass lit up again, and this time it held a picture. A broken ship spun in orbit. Fires ran along its spine. Tiny bright points flicked away from it, each one a pod, each pod a hope. The planet below was beautiful and calm, a painted eye that did not blink. A thin line rose from the planet like a thread reaching out to the broken ship. The line touched. The ship fell to pieces like dry leaves. The picture paused. The voice said, "Catastrophic failure. Organic loss significant. Recovery of fragments, partial fragments." Elias did not like that word either. "Are they alive?" he asked. The picture changed. A map of the planet spread across the glass. Marks appeared, bright dots on land and sea. The dots flickered. Some went dark. Some stayed lit. More marks appeared in a halo around the planet. These were debris fields. Among them a mark pulsed bright in a slow, steady beat. Survivors indeterminate. "Search ongoing," the voice said. "Your fragment was intact. It was selected. Selected for what?" The aliens did not answer. The one by his side lifted a small device. A soft beam ran over Elias's body, towed ahead like warm rain without water. Symbols flowed in the air again. The other 2 leaned in. Their eyes widened a little. One of them hissed a slow breath. "Stop that," Elias said. He did not raise his voice, but he put weight on his words. The beam cut off. The alien tilted its head as if thinking. The air tasted faintly of metal. Elias slid off the slab and stood. He expected the weakness of a long recovery, the dizziness of sudden movement. He felt none of that. He felt balanced and alive, like he had slept under a bright sun after a hard trek. The sheet stayed around his waist. He took a second to tie it so it would not slip, and then he moved to the far wall, testing the rhythm of his legs on the polished floor. His steps were soundless. His feet knew the right place to land before his mind told them. His senses felt near and sharp, as if the room was closer to him than rooms usually were. "Tell me your name," he said to the closest alien. The alien did not reply. It turned its head toward the projection again. The voice spoke instead, and now there was a faint tremble in it, like a line pulled too tight. "We are Careful Hands," it said. "We are the curators." "Curators," Elias repeated. He looked at the smooth walls, the glass ceiling, the clean light that hid nothing. "And I am your subject?" "You are a pattern we wish to improve," the voice said. Elias felt a cold point in his chest. "Improve," he said. "You changed me." "Correction," the voice said. "We removed inconsistency. We adjusted error. We restored intention." Elias raised his hand and watched the tendons move under the skin. The movement was quick and clear. It felt like a new machine slide, oiled and perfect. He made a fist. He opened it again. There was a small scar on the back of his hand from when he had been 12 and had fallen off an old fence. The scar was still there. It had always been a part of him. Only now the skin around it was smooth as glass. "What did you do to me?" he asked. He kept his tone calm. Calm was useful. Calm made room for action. Reconstitution required correction, the voice said. Human design contains conflict, self-limitation, noise. We resolved this. The three aliens took a step back as Elias took a step forward. Their long toes gripped the floor like they were ready to slip away if he moved too fast. He did not want to frighten them, but fear was already here. He felt it in them more than in himself. It surprised him, their fear, not his. "Why do you fear me?" he asked softly. The nearest alien finally spoke in its own voice. It was thin and bright, like a flute in a quiet room. "Your signals exceed range," it said. "Your outputs are not within safe bounds." Elias blinked. "My outputs?" "Strength," said another. "Reflex, capacity, heat, coherence. Heat." He realized he did feel a warmth inside his muscles, but it was not fever. It was like a quiet stove in a winter cabin, steady and ready. He rolled his shoulders. The warmth moved with him. He looked up at the glass ceiling again. The picture of the planet hung there, silent now. He traced the bright marks with his eyes, counting without numbers. He knew which mark was his own fragment. He could see it. He could feel the way the map was scaled. He knew distance and direction without thinking. His mind drew lines between points at once and held them all in place. This was not normal. He knew what normal felt like. This was different. It was more, he swallowed. "Return me to my crew," he said. "I will help with the search." The aliens exchanged that soft static again. The voice returned. "We cannot release incomplete patterns. Your form must be made safe." "I feel safe," Elias said. The voice did not answer. The floor under his feet shifted with a tiny click. He felt the change at once, not just under his skin, but deep in his bones. The room was taking a new shape. Walls adjusted. A faint haze formed in the air, like mist but dry. A test, he thought. He stepped sideways as a beam of faint light swept toward his chest. It would have touched him if he had not moved. He did not plan the step. He simply was not in the path anymore. The beam climbed the far wall and went out. A second beam came from the ceiling, broad and pale. He took another step. The sheet at his waist swayed but held. The beam missed him by a finger's width. "Please do not resist," the voice said. "Then please do not test me," he replied. There was a short silence. Then the haze vanished. The room settled. The slab lit with a soft glow again, as if inviting him back. He did not sit. "I did not ask for your correction," Elias said. "I did not ask for improvement. I asked for help for my crew. If you can search, I can search faster. If you can fly, I can fly with you. If you can think, I can think beside you. That is what humans do. We stand next to each other, not over." The alien with the projector lowered its arm. Its eyes softened. The other two held very still, like a decision was moving through them, one cell at a time. The voice sounded again, and now it had the feeling of a person standing behind it. "Your insistence is strong," it said. "It exceeds protocol. That's called will," Elias said. "It is not error." The walls brightened by a small degree. Somewhere far off, a door opened with a thud that sounded like distance. The room had no windows, but Elias knew the facility around him was large and alive. He felt air currents, faint and steady, moving like tides through long hallways. He felt vibrations, small and regular, like machines breathing. "Show me a map," he said. A hesitation. Then the glass ceiling lit with lines and chambers. The hall stretched before Elias like a dream of glass and light. Every few meters, soft pulses of blue shimmered beneath the floor, as if the building itself was breathing. He walked carefully, barefoot and silent, his mind sharp and his body alert. Everything around him was clean, smooth, and strangely quiet. Too quiet, like the world was holding its breath. He moved forward, following the strange pull inside him. It wasn't a sound or a vision. It was more like an instinct. A compass that had been planted deep in his thoughts since the moment he woke. Wherever it led, he knew it was tied to the truth about what had been done to him and maybe to his crew. He reached a large circular chamber filled with floating screens. Symbols flowed across them in steady rivers of light. The room felt alive and watching him. When he stepped inside, one of the screens turned toward him. A calm voice spoke again, the same that had guided him in the recovery room. Subject Elias Ward uncontained. Deviation increasing. Please return to stabilization chamber. He ignored it. "Show me the others," he said. "My crew. The humans you found." The screen shimmered, then split into many smaller windows. He saw figures, and some human, some alien, lying in silver pods like seeds waiting to bloom. There were at least a dozen. His breath caught when he saw one face he recognized, Lieutenant Chen. She looked peaceful, but too still. A soft pulse ran under her skin, faint and unnatural. "Are they alive?" he asked. "Biological activity sustained," the voice replied. "Conscious state pending." "You mean they're not awake?" he said flatly. "They are being corrected," the voice said. "The human template requires alignment." That word again, corrected. Elias clenched his fists. He didn't understand all the science, but he knew this. No one had the right to align his people. Humanity wasn't perfect, but that was the point. They struggled, they learned, they chose. He looked back at Chen's still face and felt a cold, fierce fire rise inside him. "Stop their process," he said. "Now." The voice hesitated. For the first time, it almost sounded unsure. "We cannot undo perfection." Elias took a step closer to the control pillar. "Then you'll learn what imperfection can do." He reached for the pillar. The moment his hand touched it, the surface flared bright white. Energy surged up his arm, but it didn't burn. It welcomed him, as if the system recognized something, maybe the same thing the curators feared. Streams of symbols changed direction. Warning tones filled the air. The voice rose again, sharper this time. "Unauthorized interface. Terminate access." Elias pulled his hand back, but the light didn't fade. It followed him, pulsing with each heartbeat. He realized with both awe and fear that his body was feeding the system, or perhaps the system was feeding him. He saw flashes in his mind, schematics of the facility, energy routes, the layout of containment areas. It was as if his brain had become a receiver for the station's entire network. He understood things he shouldn't. The curators were not just scientists, they were collectors. They gathered species from across galaxies, rebuilding them into better versions, smooth and controlled. They wanted to remove what they called chaos, the part that made beings unpredictable. For humans, that meant emotion, instinct, and free will. That was their mistake. They had tried to perfect the wrong creature. A metallic hiss echoed through the chamber. From hidden walls, long-limbed constructs emerged, guardian machines, sleek and insect-like. Their bodies were narrow, silver, and sharp-edged. Their faces held one glowing eye each, bright and cold. They moved like liquid metal, silent but swift. "Security units," the voice announced. "Return to the chamber for restabilization." Elias looked around. No weapon, no armor, only the thin sheet still tied at his waist. But he felt no fear. His muscles thrummed with that strange inner energy. He didn't know what the curators had done to his body, but whatever it was, it made him faster, stronger, and far more aware than before. The first guardian lunged. Elias sidestepped, fast, effortless, and its blade arm sliced empty air. His body reacted before his mind did. He grabbed the metal limb, twisted, and felt it snap like dry wood. The machine fell in two parts, its inner light fading. Another came from behind, striking with blinding speed. He spun, ducked low, and kicked. The impact sent the construct flying across the room, crashing into a wall. Sparks danced. Elias stood still, breathing slowly, heart steady. He looked at his hands. They were warm, glowing faintly at the fingertips. The warmth inside him pulsed stronger, as if responding to danger. He didn't feel rage, only focus, sharp and pure. "Enough," he shouted. The remaining machines froze. The room dimmed. Even the voice hesitated before speaking again. "Adaptation rate exceeds model limit. Human deviation unstable," he smiled grimly. "You call it unstable? I call it alive." He turned toward the screen that still showed his crew. "I'm getting them out," he said. "All of them?" "That is not possible," the voice said. "It will be," he replied, "because I said so." He moved through the corridors like a ghost. Every time the facility tried to lock him out, doors opened instead. His mind saw the systems like living veins of light. He could feel where energy flowed, where walls hid, where machines watched. The curator's design was complex, but not beyond him. He wasn't sure if it was instinct or the strange upgrade in his body, but his senses guided him perfectly. He passed rooms full of alien life, strange shapes in containment, each one different. Some looked peaceful. Others were half machine, half flesh. All were motionless, preserved in some stage of correction. The curators had built a museum of living beings, each one robbed of its true nature. Elias whispered, "I won't let you make us one of your exhibits." At last he reached a high gate marked with alien runes glowing faint red. Behind it he sensed his crew. He placed his palm on the gate, and it opened like water flowing aside. Inside were rows of silver pods, and in each pod a human. His heart tightened. They were all here, Chen, Morgan, Raffi, and more. Frozen mid-breath, suspended between life and something else. He touched Chen's pod. A soft hum rose, and a line of text appeared on the glass. "Correction 72% complete." "Not for long," Elias muttered. He focused. The light in his hand brightened. The warmth spread through his arm, down into the glass. The symbols flickered, then turned green. The pod hissed open. Chen gasped, her eyes snapping wide. She looked around wildly, coughing hard. "Easy," Elias said. "You're safe now. Captain?" She croaked. What happened? Where are we?" "I'll explain later," he said quickly. "Right now we need to wake the others." She looked at him again, really looked, and her eyes widened. "Sir, you look different." "I feel different," he admitted. "But that's not important now." Together they worked fast. Elias guided her through the pod controls. His hands seemed to know what to do instinctively. One by one the pods opened, his crew slowly waking, confused but alive. Relief washed through him with every breath they took. Then the lights dimmed. The voice returned, colder than before. Containment breached. Human contamination spreading. Termination protocol activated. The ground shuddered. Alarms blared in tones too deep for human ears. Panels slid open along the walls, revealing more Guardian machines. Bigger, stronger, faster. The air turned sharp with ozone. Chen shouted, "Sir, what now?" Elias looked at his people, half awake, weak, frightened. Then he looked at the machines closing in. He stood tall. "Now," he said, "we show them what they tried to erase." The machines lunged, but Elias was already moving. The world seemed slower to him. Every motion stretched like it waited for his decision. He grabbed a fallen metal rod and swung it like a spear, tearing through one Guardian's chest. Chen pulled a cable from a wall and used it like a whip, sparks flying. Morgan and Raffi joined, using nothing but courage and instinct. Humans fought like they always had, desperate, clever, unpredictable. The curators had designed for efficiency. They hadn't planned for chaos. Within minutes, the chamber was full of smoke and broken metal. The surviving machines retreated into the walls. Elias stood in the center, chest heaving but steady. His body still glowed faintly, though his skin showed no burns or wounds. He looked at his crew, breathing hard but alive, and felt pride burn in his chest. Chen stared at the broken machines. "Captain," she said softly, "what did they do to you?" Elias looked down at his glowing hands. "They tried to fix me," he said, "but I think they fixed something else instead." "What's that?" He smiled faintly. "Our chances." He guided his team through the corridors, back toward what he believed was the exit. Alarms echoed around them and lights flickered, but doors kept opening at his command. The curator's systems were beginning to fail, or perhaps beginning to learn fear. As they reached a large circular platform, the voice returned one last time, strained and uneven. Human deviation cannot be contained. This outcome was not designed. Elias turned toward the ceiling and said, "You should have left us flawed." Then he stepped onto the platform. Light surged beneath their feet. The structure trembled. Somewhere above, metal cracked like thunder. Elias looked up, the glow reflecting in his eyes. "Hold on," he said quietly. "Part 3 is going to be loud." And with that, the platform rose, carrying the humans toward the unknown surface, toward freedom or a fight even greater waiting above. The platform rose slowly, shaking under their feet. Sparks rained from the ceiling as the metal walls of the alien facility began to crack. A low hum filled the air, growing louder with every passing second. Elias Ward stood in the center, steady as stone, while his crew clung to the railings around him. The light below them glowed brighter until the whole chamber shone white. Then, with a sudden jolt, the platform broke through a barrier of glass and energy. The humans gasped. They were no longer underground. They stood inside a massive dome that opened into a sky full of strange stars. The planet's surface stretched out far below, oceans of silver light, forests that shimmered like crystal, and mountains that glowed from within. Above them, the alien structure floated in orbit, tethered to the ground by beams of pure energy. It was a city, a fortress, and a prison all at once. "Where are we?" Morgan whispered, his voice small under the endless sky. Elias scanned the horizon. "We're still on the curator's world," he said. "But this is their core, the heart of it all." The dome around them pulsed as if alive. The voice that had haunted them since the awakening spoke again, echoing from every direction. Softer now, but colder. "Captain Elias Ward, you are outside containment. Your species is incompatible with peace." Elias looked up, his jaw set. "You call control peace," he said. "We call it death." The crew stepped forward, surrounding Elias. They were tired, confused, but their eyes were bright with fire. Chen still carried the cable she had used as a weapon. Morgan had turned a broken piece of machine into a crude blade. Raffi held a panel that hummed like a shield. They looked like soldiers made from scrap and will, human to the core. "What's the plan, Captain?" Chen asked. Elias studied the sky again. His strange new senses tingled. He could feel the flow of energy through the alien city, the pulse of power that fed everything. Somewhere high above, at the very center of the floating fortress, was the source, the overseer, the being that commanded the curators and their machines. He turned back to his team. "We finish this," he said simply. "We end their correction once and for all." Morgan frowned. "Sir, we barely made it out of the lower levels alive. How are we supposed to fight a whole world?" Elias smiled faintly. "We don't fight the world. We fight the idea that we don't belong." Something deep inside him stirred, kind of surge of heat, quiet but unstoppable. The energy that had changed him since his awakening now responded to his thoughts. It hummed beneath his skin, not painful, just powerful. He looked at his hands and saw them glow again. Gold this time instead of white. "Stay close," he said. "I'll get us through." They moved across the dome's bridge, which stretched like a ribbon of glass over open air. The planet's light reflected below their feet. Machines flew overhead, sleek silver shapes patrolling the sky, but they didn't attack. They only circled, watching. "They're waiting," Chen said quietly. "For what?" Morgan asked. Elias answered without slowing. "For their master." At the far end of the bridge stood a massive gate taller than any human building. It was carved with alien runes and lined with shimmering light. As they approached, the gate split open soundlessly. Beyond it lay a great hall, circular, vast, and bright with flowing energy streams. In the center stood a figure made of light and metal, shifting in form as if it could not decide what shape to take. The Overseer. Its voice was deep and resonant, echoing in both air and mind. Humanity was an unfinished design. Violence, emotion, chaos. You were not meant to endure. Elias stepped forward, his voice calm and firm. "Yet here we are." "Because of error," said the Overseer. "You should not have survived the reconstruction. Your body rejected order. You are a threat to harmony." "I'm a reminder," Elias said. "You tried to erase what makes us human, our will. You forgot that will doesn't break. It adapts." The Overseer's light flared, bright and blinding. "We seek perfection. You seek destruction." Elias shook his head. "No, we seek meaning. There's a difference. The room began to tremble. Energy lines around the chamber sparked and shifted. The overseer's form stabilized, turning into a towering figure of glass and fire. Its face was blank, featureless. Its voice grew louder. You will return to correction, or you will be erased. Elias felt his crew tense behind him. Chen whispered, Captain. He raised a hand. Stay back. The overseer lifted one arm and streams of blue light shot toward Elia, fast, deadly, silent. But as they reached him, something incredible happened. The light bent, curved around him like water around a stone, and vanished into the floor. Elias stood untouched. The overseer paused. Impossible. Elias's eyes glowed faint gold. No, he said softly. Just human. He moved forward one step at a time. The air thickened around him, waves of pressure trying to push him down. The overseer's voice roared through the hall. You are a virus. You corrupt order. Then maybe order needs a little corruption, Elias said, his voice rising over the noise. With a deep breath, he reached inside himself. Not physically, but with his will. The warmth he had felt since awakening turned into a blazing current. Energy surged out from him in bright golden lines, racing across the floor and up the walls. The overseer staggered back as sparks rained from the ceiling. The curator's perfect world was cracking. Chen and the others shielded their eyes. The air shimmered with heat and light. Machines in the walls began to fail, collapsing into piles of broken metal. The entire fortress shook as the energy grid fractured. The overseer tried to rebuild its form, shouting over the chaos. You cannot destroy us. You are flawed. You are weak. Elias stood in the center of the storm, calm amid ruin. Weak, he said. Maybe, but that's what makes us strong. We break, we bleed, we fail, and then we rise again. That's what you'll never understand. The golden energy around him flared brighter. His voice echoed across the hall like thunder. You tried to fix humanity, but humanity was never broken. With a final surge, he sent a shockwave through the floor. The overseer screamed, not in pain but in disbelief, as its light tore apart. The chamber exploded in radiance. When the light faded, the fortress was silent. Elias stood in the ruins, his skin dimly glowing. The golden energy slowly faded from his body. He looked around. Chen, Morgan, and Raffi were alive, shaken but safe. The hall that had once been perfect was now full of cracks and smoke. Captain, Chen said softly, you did it. Elias looked up. Through the broken ceiling, the stars burned bright and endless. The city above them, the curator's ship, was falling apart piece by piece. Its once stable energy now twisted wild and free like lightning breaking from a cage. No, he said quietly. We did it. A deep rumble rolled through the ground. The facility was collapsing. Elias turned to his crew. We need to leave now. They ran back across the bridge as the dome cracked behind them. The light beneath the glass dimmed. One by one, alien towers fell into the silver forest below. The whole sky seemed to shatter. When they reached the edge of the platform, Elias looked down. Far below he could see escape pods, human and alien, drifting to the surface. Some of the curators were abandoning their creation, choosing life over their idea of perfection. He felt no hate for them, only understanding. Even they were learning something human. Survival. He turned to his crew. We jump, Morgan blinked. Sir, trust me, Elias said. He took Chen's hand, nodded to the others, and leapt. The fall should have killed them. But the air around them shimmered, slowing their descent. The energy still inside Elias spread out like wings of light, carrying them down until they landed gently among the glowing trees. The planet's night was beautiful, quiet, silver, and full of new life. Above them, the curator's fortress burned like a dying star. Elias watched it fall, his heart full of strange peace. Chen looked at him, eyes wide. What now, Captain? Elias smiled faintly. Now we find a way home. And maybe we tell the universe something important. What's that? He looked up at the sky, where the stars reflected in his eyes. That humanity doesn't need perfection to be extraordinary. As dawn rose on that strange world, the last fragments of the alien city fell into the sea. The curators, wherever they went, would remember this day. The day their error defied them. The day one flawed species proved stronger than their perfect design. And somewhere, across the endless stars, a signal traveled, a simple message, sent from Elias Ward's mind into the void. They tried to fix us. We were never broken. It reached far, carried by light and memory, a message from one human to all creation, a message that said humanity, still here, still fighting, still free.